All right, everybody, welcome to episode 30 of the Different Animals Podcast. It's your boy Tyler.
And I'm Ever Castro.
And this week, we're going to talk about what we've been watching. We're going to talk about free agency in the NBA. And we're going to talk about Wonder Woman getting moved out of theaters and onto streaming platforms. But first, all right, so we're going to start with what we've been watching. And I'm just going to go ahead and open up with mine because there's not much to it, but I've just been watching more of that Fire Force anime I was telling you about. And it's been coming along pretty nicely.
Nice.
Had a couple really well done action scenes, and the story's picking up a little bit. So definitely into that. But other than that, you sent me a link to something you had been watching, I think near the middle of this past week.
Yeah. So, I didn't get a chance to. And again, if I sound a little off than usual, it's because I'm not where I usually record. I'm on the road still. So, by next week, definitely I will be back to normal. But
He's on his road tour, hitting locations across the globe.
with Common, my man. Um, and so I haven't had a chance to start any new shows. I know the last one I mentioned was Ted Lasso, and I think I mentioned that I finished up Tomb Raider, the Rise of the Tomb Raiders, but I haven't had a chance to start a new show or a new video game. So nothing new in terms of like a long arching series or anything like that. But this week I did watch something that was actually kind of long. It was like 20 minutes, and it was a stand-up special by Dave Chappelle. It was called Unforgiven, and he actually published this one on Instagram. So if you go to his Instagram page, you click it, you get 2 minutes, and then you have to go over to Instagram TV, which is in the same app, it's just in a different place. Um, and I don't know if it was on YouTube or not. I'm not sure. But anyway, so he posted it on Instagram. And even though he has a contract or he has a deal set up with Netflix, he posted it there. And I think we've talked about before about how, if you want to post something right away, whether it's a stand-up special or what have you, it's faster on Instagram or YouTube than it is on Netflix, because through Netflix, it's not just as easy as hit the upload button. It's like a lot more
Right.
of background shit.
Yeah, we talked about that with Hannibal Buress' stand-up special because he posted
Yeah,
it
that's right.
directly to YouTube.
Yeah. Probably, I think it takes a lot more time to get those ready. And if you're somebody who wants to put it out, like that, you probably want to do it on YouTube. But, and I think, and there is a reason he wanted to do this one. But, so anyway, so this one, it's about his contract disputes with Viacom, who owns Comedy Central. And Comedy Central has recently been putting Chappelle's show on Netflix and a couple of other streaming services, which I think he mentions in the special.
Yeah.
He wasn't aware that they were doing, and so I
Right.
guess this is why he wants to get this out right away. And so, so he tells three stories, right, about sort of that all lead up to the point as to why he feels like, or why he knows that he hasn't been paid, and they're each very interesting. And the first two are more like anecdotal to sort of give you background on the situation, and then the last one is him explaining how he came to have the show and sort of how he got screwed out of money, and what he needs people to do now.
Right. And it's really him. So this is a phrase I've used a couple of times, and like I use it in varying circumstances. But like, so like the first circumstance I've used it is like like whenever Kanye has a track where it's just like producing and there's like not really any lyrics or anything, I'm like, this is just Kanye setting his nuts on the table to let everybody know that he still like makes the best beats, right?
Yeah.
So this 20-minute special, which first of all, you sent it to me, it was an Instagram link, right? I clicked on it and it was like Dave Chappelle. It said Unforgiven, and I was like, all right, cool. Let it roll for a minute. I hit pause. That shit said 20 minutes. I was like, on Instagram? I was like, yo, wildin'. But nah, it was good. I watched the whole thing while I was at work, being the productive human I am. But yeah, this was him setting his nuts on the table in regards to like his influence versus what he got paid, basically. Because I feel that like if he had gotten, I mean, it's hard to say, but I feel like if he felt like the deal was fair that he had gotten for Chappelle's show, you know, then even as popular as he's now, he probably wouldn't have done this. But because he felt he got screwed and he is as popular as he is, he was like, nah, I'm just going to flex on this until I make things happen. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
So without going too into detail into it, so, you know, so that way if you wanted to watch it and you haven't seen it yet, it's like you said, it's basically just him talking about how he kind of got screwed over the Chappelle Show deal, and how, you know, things still aren't working the way he feels they should. You know, he feels the whole system is unfair in this particular juncture, and you know, he. Do you think it'd be fair to say what he ends it on because it's kind of the whole point? So like his final call, where he asks. He basically I feel like all his fans to boycott Chappelle's show.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like immediately after it dropped, I saw a bunch of articles where that was the main point, where they were like, Chappelle asked people to boycott the show. So I don't think it's like a spoiler or anything.
Right. So yeah, he asked everyone to boycott the show because he, from what I understand, is not getting compensated at all for it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and to that extent, Netflix immediately pulled it down. They immediately yanked it.
Which it sounds like he really, really appreciated. And I, and the reason I also wanted to talk about this today is because, we still quote and talk about the show to this day.
Yeah,
because we literally did, 20 minutes?
Bush.
Yeah, the Black Bush, 20 minutes on, how great that is and how it's, the funniest. I still think it's the funniest skit anybody, or is it sketch? I think people don't like calling them skits or something. Sketch. It's the funniest sketch that I've ever seen, ever. And so I was like, we gotta talk about it, because we literally just did 20 minutes on it, a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And so, but the thing is that, there was a while there where he didn't do any shows, didn't do any movies or anything. And then he came back and started doing stand-up specials with Netflix. And I think he has, 3 or 4 maybe at this point.
I don't know. They all run together.
Yeah,
right? They're all, weird. They don't really have, any build-up. They just kind of fucking drop. And then, there was, one that was 2 of them released at the same time, but they were 2 different specials in 2 different locations, but they dropped on the same day. And, they were considered, 2 episodes. You click on it on Netflix, and it would be both of them. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what the fuck goes on. I don't know what you're doing.
Did you watch any of them?
I actually watched... I was going to say all, but I'm not positive. I've definitely watched... If there's 4 of them, I think I've watched 3.
Okay.
And if there's 3, I do think I watched all of them, but...
Okay, yeah, because I haven't watched any of them, at all. And I used to watch his... I think I mentioned this before, that I used to watch stand-up, all the time when I was a kid. And I haven't in a long time, even though Netflix has sort of become the home of stand-up.
Where, they've taken that market over.
Yeah, from HBO, because HBO used to be, the place you'd be like, oh, dude, you got an HBO special. That was, the thing.
Right.
And now it's Netflix gave you $50 million for an hour? That's nuts, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I for some reason, I just haven't had a chance to watch his. I think the only one I've watched in the last...
Was that too loud?
No. It's,
okay.
The only one I've watched is... What was her name? I forget her name. Ellie Wong. And I watched her 2 specials on there because we went to see her in concert. But I don't think I've watched anybody else's.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of just comedy specials. It's one of my favorite things to watch. So anytime I see one on Netflix that's by by the people I enjoy watching, I usually will stop and listen to it.
Yeah, and so, but the thing that I caught with this one immediately was, which I know it's probably common knowledge, but how good of a storyteller he is. And I know that's sort of always been the case. But I've seen his old ones from the early 2000s, and it seemed like those were much more rapid fire, whereas now he seems more methodical, more exact. He goes, he says exactly when he should do it, exactly how to say it.
He lets it breathe. He lets everything breathe a lot. Which I've listened to a lot of, or watched a lot of comedy specials, and listened to a lot of comedians talk about doing comedy, and they say that's like actually one of the hardest things to do in comedy is to like not just move from one joke to the next, to be
Right.
comfortable in that gap you leave,
Yeah.
because the thing is that gap could be what murders you. Like that
Mm.
gap could be what goes from like, okay, we're getting through it, and then someone's like, really, like we're giving this much time to this joke, but like, you
Right.
know, obviously your better comedians are like more comfortable sitting in those awkward periods of silence,
Yeah.
to let the next thing build.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, when I used to watch him, I loved sort of, the guys that went rapid fire, but they didn't. They knew on what to linger and they knew on what not to linger. Like I loved George Carlin stuff when I was growing up, and
Right.
even Dave Chappelle's early stuff, the ones that I've mentioned before, the two special. I think he had 2 or 3 specials with HBO. I used to watch all the time. Like I remember to this day the one where he's wearing the blue shirt. You know which one I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, baby, get the fuck out of the corner. I'm selling crack, or is it something like that?
Yeah.
uh,
Oh god, there's a thing that I constantly use whenever someone says something ridiculous. Like there in one of his specials, he has this bit where he's talking about how like he's like he was at it might have
is
been
it
like
Ja
a
Rule?
buffet. Nah, it's like he's at a buffet and he's like he's grabbing the fried chicken and he plays the voice of some like racist country dude. He's like,
Mm.
"Come on, buddy." Come on, buddy. And so, like, anytime someone does something ridiculous and, like, where they
Uh,
should have known better, I'm like, come on, buddy. Because the part he starts off right after is like, everybody knew when you walked in, you was going to get the chicken. Like, it just kills me so much. Because then his next line is like, I thought I liked fried chicken because of the taste. Come to find out, I'm predisposed to liking fried chicken.
I
But so,
was
like, every time someone does something stupid, I'm like, come on, buddy.
I was telling Sydney this week about the Ja Rule thing, the Ja Rule line, because I was telling her, I was like, did you know that on Twitter, anytime Ja Rule says anything that isn't like, anytime that he says anything about anything that isn't like, hey, here's your music, or here's my concert, or like, man, this was a great time when I did this song, if he says anything, whether it's, hey, I think this Carolina Notre Dame game's good, people will quote tweet it and put that clip of him being like, nobody wants to give a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at this time right now, man. This is ridiculous. And I found it. I went through his Ja Rule's tweets and I found one where he talks something like that, and then you can see people's quote tweets. And I clicked on the quote tweets, and literally all of them is that clip. I was like, nobody gives a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, God, it's perfect. But yeah, so he's one of the best at doing it, and it's funny because he's actually come under a lot of fire, kind of lately from the LGBTQ community because he's had a couple iffy jokes. And by iffy jokes, I mean bad. They're actually so you haven't watched them, but like
No.
so I read an article that was talking about this special, the 20-minute special, right? And it was saying this whole special is extremely ironic because it's him talking about how he and you know a comedian picks their words super carefully. You know what I mean? Like they literally a comedian goes through just changing small like ways they phrase things just to see what lands the best. So like it's never an accident what words they choose. So he says like Dave Chappelle says like I wanted Netflix to take this down because it makes me feel bad. Like he specifically says because it makes me feel bad, and then he specifically says because it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Like in multiple things, and they're like this whole thing. Like people in the trans community have been coming at you, and you've been like fuck you, it's just jokes. But their whole point is that it just doesn't feel good. Like it makes me feel bad, and people are like this is the most ironic thing ever. That like as good as this is, like how can you not see this from the other perspective?
Right. It's like you asking us to be the most empathetic we can be toward you in your situation.
Right. And the thing is we are. Like everyone that watched that is like, yeah, you did get screwed. That's not fair. Like you regardless like I think people even understand like look, sometimes like Scottie Pippen, sometimes you sign the contract and it's like, bro, you knew it was bad. You know what I mean? Like you made that decision. You can't go back on it now. But like at a certain point, it's like your name is on the show. It's kind of shitty for you not to get paid. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a little bit.
It'd be like if they were called like the Chicago Scottie Pippens, and then you were like, he was like, I want to get paid, and they were like, no, you signed a shitty contract.
Yes.
It's like the Scottie Pippens.
Like it's so hard, right? Because it's so he makes millions. He made a shit ton of money on Netflix, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like, yes, I want you to get paid because you are worth that money because that show is so popular and it was huge for Comedy Central and you made you made millionaires even more millions, right?
Right.
But you not getting that money isn't the most pressing issue right now because you're already a millionaire, right? And he
Right.
tells the story about that guy playing the cards on the street, right? And he's like, "Don't you ever come between me and my money again." And I would say that's more important because that dude probably doesn't make a lot of money. So
Right.
So it's hard because like I do care and I do want him to get his money, but then also it's not the most pressing matter. But then again, you could say that about anything. You'd be like, well, that's not the most pressing thing, right?
Right. I think the reason for me why, like I said, this feels like I do think it is shitty is just because like it's literally named the Chappelle Show. It's not like he was the host and he did the skits, but the show was called like Comedy Central Sketch Hour. You know what I mean?
Right,
like
right.
it's like literally like his face, his name, like the whole thing is just him. like,
I mean, it's like yeah. It's like it's not. It's like not like Eddie Murphy when he saved SNL, right?
right.
Like there was like 3 seasons where Eddie Murphy like carried like the whole show like Atlas, but then it's like it's not
It's
the
still
same.
SNL. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not the Eddie Murphy show on Saturday nights. So like it's like it is what it is. But this one felt shitty because his name was on it. But what's funny is like, and this isn't like super relevant, but like I just brought it up to bring up this because this is like a thought I've had for a while, and so you haven't watched any of those Netflix specials from Dave Chappelle, correct?
No.
All right. So the big first joke that got him in trouble was that he says, like with the trans community and a lot of people in general, was that his joke is that like he gets like the LGB part of that, but he's like they're all sitting in a car and I'm like, what the fuck's up with these T's over here, right? And like then people went after him, and like his whole thing is like it's a fucking joke, blah blah blah. But what I think the reason that people don't find that joke, like people get mad about that joke, myself included, is because the joke's not good. It's not even about the fact that it's about trans people. It's that it's not even a good joke. It's not an original joke. It's not a unique thought on the situation. And I've noticed that a lot with like even comedians that I like Bill Burr has done a joke where he's just like kind of riffing on like gay people in the trans community. And the thing is like I get the feeling that Bill Burr's pretty liberal. But like he's still like what I wonder is that they're in like the biggest comedy scene is in Los Angeles, which is extremely liberal, right? I wonder if they're just not aware of like standard. I don't know if what's dialogue's not the right word, but like standard things that are said about that community because they're in such a liberal area.
Yeah,
Because
like
like
nobody's
some of the jokes they say, I'm like, dude, I heard some racist guy at the gas station say that like last week. It's not even funny or original. But like, I wonder if because they're so isolated in that bubble of like extremely liberal people, that like this is a new take that nobody's ever thought of. And I'm like, bro, I heard that from some old hillbilly down the road.
it's I've always thought yes I think you're right. I think they like because they're like always around the same people that they kind of go, well, hey guys, this new idea, have you guys thought about this? Because it's like, yes, people actually get killed constantly for that, right?
Right.
And so
And it's the same thing with the Kevin Hart thing, because like well, the Kevin Hart thing was even more different because all people asked from him was an apology, like because the joke was old, and they're like, "Could you please apologize?" And he was like, "I'm not apologizing for shit."
and he's like, dude, you're literally gonna lose your dream job of the Oscars if you don't apologize. He's like, I don't care, I'm not fucking Kevin Hart.
Just like apologize, it's not a big deal. Like here's the thing is. And the one time he made the apology, it was like some weird, like beating around the bush, like half-assed, like why are you doing this? Just here's the deal: is I think people would have been even like, his whole point was like, it's a joke I made 10 years ago or whatever, right? I think people would have accepted that if you'd have been like, I've grown in the past 10 years, I realize that's not funny, or like not funny anymore, that it has negative connotations to it or real life. Connotations to it that people go through every day, and
Right.
you can just say that, and the thing is people will just forgive the joke.
Yes.
Eddie Murphy has the worst worst section of jokes about gay people with AIDS in one of his specials of all time, and people don't talk about it anymore because he just moved on. He was like, "No, my bad."
Right.
It's just not my bad. Like times
If
are
you
different.
apologize,
I apologize.
people will
They're,
if you like are
they're
sincere,
not
you
going to
say,
necessarily. They're not going to be like, "Oh, well, that joke's funny now." You know what I mean? Like they may say that joke sucks from now to the end of time, but at least they're not going to hold you over the fire for it because you legitimately apologized.
Exactly.
And not like a half-assed around the bush apology. We're just like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was insensitive to what you're going through, and that was a mistake. You know, like that's all I think that they want. Like,
not the shitty like I'm sorry you got offended. It's like no,
right.
that's not an apology. You're just that's not what it is. Yeah, and I always thought this even from when I was a kid, and I noticed stand-up specials getting worse for comedians that did better. I think the two things, the two careers, the two talent fields where the more successful you get, the less good you are in your field are comedy, stand-up comedy, and hip-hop. I think both of those, the authenticity disappears, and I think both of those hinge so much on being authentic, for different reasons. But I think both of those hinge on being authentic so much that the moment you start to do really well, you get money, you move on. It's sort of hard to make good albums about being rich or whatever, right? So like if you're a stand-up comedian and you tell stories about everyday life, or not even just situations, if you get rich, you sort of don't know what to talk about. Like Chris Rock, I remember I used to love his Bigger and Blacker one from like
right.
years ago, like '96, like right. And then he did another one like in 2012, or like 2008 or something. And I remember watching, being like, "You're talking about stuff that I can't connect with." Like he's talking about being rich, and I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like I can kind of get it from what you're explaining it to me, but it's not the same as like growing up poor or growing situations where that I just have no scope for." And I feel like that's the same for hip hop as well, where like Kendrick can give us um, Good Kid, Mad City, and I don't live in the situations that he describes, but I remember being in high school, being wanting to get with girls, being in competition, not being unsure of yourself as you're growing up. Mm-hmm. Whereas something like Damn, where you explain to me, how you're afraid that you're gonna lose your money, it clicks with me and I get it, but I can't connect to it. There's like a stop where I can't connect to it anymore, right?
See, I think I agree with your overall point, but maybe not necessarily the reasons. Like, I think I agree that, like, those two mediums do suffer more as people get more popular, but I think it's because, to me, in my opinion, I think it's more because those things require, like, in the case of comedy, like, unique perspectives on things that kind of happen all the time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like a weird take on something that happens all the time. And so like I think the issue is that like as you become more popular, I think you're spending less time thinking about those things, getting unique perspectives on them, and more about handling your business. You know what I mean? Like handling your money, making sure you're putting stuff out when it's supposed to. Like touring, all that, and like. There are plenty of comedians that still, to this day, I think, do it fine. Like, even the Bill Burr thing, like, that one section of jokes where I was like, this isn't great, was like 10, 15 minutes. But then the other 40 minutes were, like, legitimately good. Like, as good as his older stuff, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think certain people can still do it. And I think, to your point, like, whereas maybe you felt a disconnect with them, but I think we can all agree that, like, Kendrick, as he's gotten more popular, has not gotten worse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Damn are all distinctly different, but they're all still of high quality. Where we can look at someone like, really even Jay-Z, where it's like, at a certain point, he was like, I'm just pumping shit out for money at this point, I think. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, maybe Kendrick was a bad example. I guess I should have said, who's somebody that I think was really good, and then they just like. I was like, I love the early stuff. I love when they talk about real stuff, and then they just ended up talking about bullshit. I guess Drake.
Drake.
Jay-Z. Well, the thing with Kanye, I was gonna say Kanye, but then like Twisted Fantasy, he's at the top of the world, or he's like somebody who's already been there and he kills it. I guess maybe yeah. Jay-Z,
but see, even Twisted Fantasy though is still like, and to me that's more of an example of how it's not necessarily just because you're on top of the world. I think it's that you start putting less thought into what you're doing and more thought into all these other things around you. Because My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is a singular pointed, like, he was doing that and that's all he was doing. He was in Hawaii, no one was around him, like, you know what I mean, like, this all he was focused on 24 hours a day, every day. But then, like, you got Life of Pablo, and he was like all over the fucking place. And then you have what was that album right after Life of Pablo? Was it just Yay?
Yay? Or
Yay. So Yay was like the most rushed, like, garbage put together thing ever, and the album turned out like that because he had a million other fucking things he's trying to do. And so, like, I think that's what happens, like, with comedy and with rap, is that, like, people they get too much other shit going on, and, like, while I can understand why that happens, it just hurts, like, your craft. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and I don't really mean, like, in terms of, like, the work they put in it. I just mean, like, the themes of, like, Twisted Fantasy. Like, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but, like, College Dropout. What he talks about there is stuff that everybody has to deal with, right? When he talks about spaceships, right? And being on that shitty shift with a job you hate,
right?
That will always be much more universal, and you'll click to it much more. Or even family business, you click to it so much more than something like, So Appalled, right? Or whatever, where he talks about dating models and fell in love with a porn star, right? Even though that's great, and it is, and you do click with it on a very basic level, it's not as empathetic. It's not as close to the ground.
I agree, but I think you could still look at their work and say, like, that is, like, I would still say that's a better album. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that it got worse because he was more popular.
Yeah, and that's why I said I didn't want to use him as an example, because I feel like the other one, he managed to break that trend. Well, I'm trying to think of somebody else. Maybe like Drake. Yeah, I guess like Drake, like early stuff. He's a, like, relationship, and you can click with it, and, like, sort of being growing up. But then you get to something like Scorpion, or even some parts of Views, and he's just talking about how fucking rich he is, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm there with you with, like, Controller and stuff. But then some of the stuff I'm like, well, dude, like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I like it. It sounds great. But I'm like, like, cool. You have a giant compound, and, like, I'm with you, Drake, but, like, you're gonna have to give me something eventually, because, right? You're gonna be 45 talking about your compound.
yeah, I guess I could see that. Yeah, I think there's a few things that go into it. Now that I get what you're saying. I think it works. But yeah, I do think comedy also probably comes from that, and I do think that's why you see a lot of I think comedians that still do extremely well are guys that kind of just, like, do just regular shit. Like, even though they have money, like, they're just kind of still doing regular shit. You know what I mean? They're not talking about how they're fucking living in a mansion. You know what I mean? They're like,
right.
Oh, I was fucking, like, a good comedy bit is like, I was rolling into X store and this random customer did this dumb shit. Because even still, as rich as you may be, if you went into the place and experienced this, we all have been in that situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like Bill Burr. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bill, like, I've listened to some podcasts of Bill Burr. I feel like the only thing Bill Burr does now is that, like, he likes to try and fly, like, helicopters, but he doesn't even fly, like, the fucking advanced one. He flies, like, little shitty helicopters. So I was like, yeah, well, fuck it. But yeah.
So, well, fuck it. Fuck it. All right. I flew the helicopter. I said, fuck it.
That's a pretty good God, ready for my Bill Burr impersonation? Fuck you, Philadelphia. God, that's one of my favorite rants of all time. You've seen that, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
God. Yep. He says, God, I think Joe Frazier's from Philadelphia, and he's like, y'all racist fucks could have had Joe Frazier on a fucking statue and instead you decided to put some 5'2" fucking fake Italian short piece of shit. Like, oh God, if anyone has a chance, please just go on YouTube and look up Bill Burr's rant against Philly. The slight bit of context is just that, like, it was a horrible venue. Like, comedy's usually done at night. It was done in, like, a giant open venue, and it was like the middle of the day, so, like, people just, like, aren't really in the mood for it anyways.
Yeah.
And like, he said that, like, on top of that, the crowd is just being shitty, and, like, everybody that was going up there before him was just getting, like, bombing, and he was like, And it was people that I've seen do well every other place. He's like, this crowd was just being shitty. So he just came out, like, from square one. It was just shitting on the crowd for, like, a solid fucking, like, had to be 30 minutes. Like, his full set. He doesn't do his actual set. He just shits on everybody in the crowd for the full amount of time he was supposed to be on stage. Oh, it's fucking great. But yeah. Boy, what were we talking about?
We were talking about like comedy stuff, but we can stick with with Philly and Philly moves in our next topic.
All right.
Which is NBA free agency signings.
Right.
And specifically, well, I mentioned Philly because they signed Dwight Howard, which was a little weird, but they signed Dwight Howard, and then they also signed Danny Green and a bunch of other guys. But we can go down. I got like a list of like a couple guys, the biggest guys that signed deals or made deals. So the first one, Anthony Davis, he opted out of his player option for the Lakers, but I think he's gonna stay, right? I see him signing a long-term deal. I think he's just trying to sort of get it set up where he can get like
the most amount of money right when like a salary cap jumps or anything like that.
Jeez, what would you like, dude? Like, what do you? Not even like on a total year, but what do you think Anthony Davis is worth a year? Like if Russell Westbrook is getting 40, and some dudes are getting 35, like he's gotta be like 45, or maybe they're not gonna give him 50, but he's worth at least 50, right?
Right. I don't know here's the deal: the best NBA players are worth more than the max. Like the salary cap is a hindrance to the best NBA players. Like you're trying to tell me that like LeBron was never worth more than what he was getting paid at the max. You know what I mean?
Dude, at his peak, he was worth.
Can you imagine
70, dude?
Can you imagine Can you imagine if basketball players had like baseball player money, like where there were no salary caps? It would be insane.
There's fewer players, so more money. Right. I mean, I remember, Miami.
Maybe the Knicks would have struck out on every single free agent. You might have been able to ball out. Like, how much money can you turn down, LeBron? Because the Knicks is owned by the guy who owns Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? Like, he's never been more flux with cash, bro. I'll give you 50% of ticket revenue, bro.
I'll give you all the hot dog stands on 34th and 3rd Avenue. Because I think Miami was when he, LeBron, peak LeBron, we can all agree is like what, 2013? Right. Would you agree? Right? Or, well, his peak is still going on, but his peakiest peak is when he was like, when he was Miami. He was like 2013 Miami. He was like 290. Dude was nuts. They got him for like 3 years for 60 mil?
Nah,
dude, dude, what the hell? Like, what? Oh my God! Now that's Harrison Barnes money now, right?
Right? God. Oh, God.
So
if he didn't if endorsement money was a thing, he'd be sick every year, bro. He'd be like, these motherfuckers making more.
Dude, like I'm the greatest player of basketball. No, but yeah, and so he's gonna
Barnes.
Harrison Barnes money. We got a dinner. He's like, I'll pick up the check. What the fuck?
I got Harrison Barnes trying to pay for my meals. This is horse shit. Yo, real quick though, I kind of wish that was a thing. Like, can you imagine, like, if you got like peak LeBron, like, just making less money than like trash players, bro? How many times do you think he would have went out of his way to dunk on Harrison Barnes or like dunk on Gordon Hayward, bro? It's
just to show him
a fucking rap.
Dude, the funniest thing I think is on Twitter. One of the guys, I think it's Tyler something, but he goes by Trill Weathers on there. Anytime that the NFL gives out a huge contract, like it'll be like, who's DeAndre Hopkins, got 4 years, 120 mil. And he's like, wow, dude, now he's getting Timothy Mozgov money. Cool, right? Like he's getting, Pascal Siakam's gonna be able to buy him dinner now, right? Like it's like one of the best players in the NFL, and they're getting like mid-tier NBA money.
Oh God, you're right. It's a shame. Like that's athletes are like NBA players are getting screwed, and NFL players are getting even more screwed.
And in terms of other deals, I know. Well, they haven't not in trades, but just renewals. Darren Fox got a big deal. Donovan Mitchell got a big deal. Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, all these guys got like the max. I think it's like 4 years 190, 4 years 180 something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then Gordon Hayward signing with Charlotte.
for the most ignorant amount of money anyone has ever played for.
Jesus
Someone
Christ.
like coming off like an almost career-ending injury and has not been good since then.
Yeah, it sounds like a Michael Jordan move. Who they signed somebody else? They signed somebody else that people were like, "What the hell is he thinking?"
I'm scrolling through this fucking list right now. I'm gonna find it.
They signed somebody else.
But Bismack Biyombo
Yes,
is actually
yeah,
good,
yeah.
though.
Yeah, but I think he signed for the minimum, so it's like one of those players where it's like he was fine, you know, like he's not gonna set the world on fire, but then he's not necessarily setting the the checkbook on fire. Mike
Right.
Connolly declining his player option. He's like, no, y'all can keep playing me, 30 mil.
Yes.
Fred Van Fleet getting like 80 mil, good for him.
Yeah. Fucking Michael Carter Williams signed with the Orlando Magic. It has been previously pointed out to me, Rookie of the Year. Michael Carter Williams won Rookie of the Year his rookie year.
In 2009, it was Syracuse, right? Michael Carter Williams, Syracuse. Yeah.
Yeah, he won. He's been terrible like his whole career, but apparently won Rookie of the Year.
It's like what's his name? Who
In
else did that?
2013.
Mike Evans. Remember Mike Evans? Mike Evans? No. Tyreek Evans.
Yeah, Tyreek Evans. Yep.
Yeah. He got Rookie of the Year and then just kind of went nowhere.
Yeah. But yeah, he signed with the Magic. It doesn't even say what he signed for because they're not paying him any serious money for that.
Montrezl Harrell signing with the Lakers.
Oh yeah, and then fucking, did you see Patrick Beverly like put the like puke emojis next like when it was announced? Oh my god. Yo, shout out to the Knicks. We signed Austin Rivers, which I'm like, I mean, how good is Austin Rivers really? But then, as I mentioned last week, we kind of need whatever we can get at this point, and he's like not a terrible player.
Yeah.
We
Like,
did
it's
unfortunately
like-
sign Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who I constantly make fun of when he was in Charlotte, so now he's on my fucking team.
Somebody called them the Kentucky Knicks because they have Michael Gilchrist, Knox, Randall, Nerlens, and Quickly. I don't even know who the hell Quickly is.
Apparently, Theo Pinson signed with the Knicks, so we'll have somebody
two-way
for you
deal.
to root for. Yeah, there's Austin Rivers on there. Rondo signed with the Hawks for some reason. Bro, I'd have just retired instead, bro. You just gotta let that go.
The guys that I don't know, what I was confused about was the guys who left LA who were
Well,
old.
I don't think they were gonna re-sign Rajon Rondo anyways. I think they picked up. They picked up a decent.
that
point
guy.
guard.
The guy from OKC?
Okay, see.
Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah. They picked him up. I don't think they were planning on re-signing him anyways. But my point is that, like, if you're Rajon Rondo and you just want a ring in LA, if you're not going to get signed to another championship contender, just wrap it up, bro. Like, why do you want to go hang out with the Hawks? And then I say that, but then literally as I was saying it, I looked at this fucking list and it said 2-year, $15 million, and I was like, I guess I'd just go play on the Hawks.
And live in Atlanta, one of the best cities in the country? Yeah, sure.
Right? It was like, why would you do that? And it was like 2 years for $15 million. Yeah, I'd probably play whatever fucking team you wanted.
Dude, I don't know. But I guess if I'm rich, I'm like, okay, I can live in LA for like the veteran minimum. Give me $500,000. I'll live in LA. I've already got 2 rings, right? He's not doing the Vince Carter, David West thing, right? Where he's trying to get that last ring on the squad. He's just like, he can coast the rest of the way.
Right. But again, Atlanta's paying him
2
more than the
years,
veteran
15
minimum.
mil, right.
Yeah, and he's again gets to live in Atlanta. So
And
Fuck
again,
it.
he gets $15 million.
fuck it, I might do it too.
Yeah, the Dwight Howard one was weird. I didn't look into what happened there, but apparently he tweeted out like, "LA, I'm coming back. I love it here." And then he signed with the 76ers. I think there was like a misunderstanding with the contract stuff.
He got a letter in the mail, thought it was the Lakers. Was like, I'm coming back to LA, and then he signed it, and they were like, "This is for the 76ers." He was like, "Fuck."
It's like, this is your directions for ring ceremony. This isn't a contract one.
DeMarcus Cousins apparently signed a 1-year deal with the Houston Rockets, but like Harden's never gonna hand you the ball. Like that's two people that all they ever do is just fucking pound the ball into the pavement and just fucking like throw it up. I don't even know why you'd show up.
I've seen a lot of this week of that video of him when he was with the Kings, and he's like, "This is getting ridiculous. I just want people to see this. This is ridiculous. I mean, I'm serious. This is ridiculous."
Oh god.
I wonder So I wonder if he got a ring with the Lakers because he was on the team or something, and
I
like
don't.
it's like
I don't think he was this last year, was he?
I, see that I don't know. So like I hope he did
Fuck
because
it. Did DeMarcus Cousins get a ring? All right, hold on. I've typed in DEMAR. Very first thing that popped up. Come up. DeMarcus Cousins get a ring.
did he?
No. It's
Oh,
Google.
See,
Hold on, Google. Yo, look, I'm sending this to you right now. Look at what Google just told me. I'm gonna post this.
no, zero.
Why is this so disrespectful? You type in, so you know how like sometimes this is just for the audience. Sometimes when you like look up something on Google, it'll just give you an answer. Like it doesn't post a link. It's just like here's your answer. I typed in did DeMarcus Cousins get a ring, and that shit at the very top Google says no, comma 0. Like, man got no rings.
It just wanted to make it explicit. It's like no, and he has 0 by the way. I'm gonna tweet this out after this. It'll be like disrespectful.
Why did they do my man DeMarcus Cousins like that?
And I feel so bad for him because
he was good. He got the problem.
So good.
He had some problems with George Karl, which a lot of
George
players.
Karl's also a piece of shit.
Yeah, a lot of players have problems with George Karl. And then there's a clip DeMarcus Cousins talking to Matt Barnes, I think, on like Matt Barnes' podcast. He's like, they mentioned like what is the greatest, or no, they were like worst basketball coach you've ever had. He's like George Karl, straight up. And other guys, he's like DeMarcus Cousins is like one of the best basketball minds I've ever been around. Worst coach, easy George Karl. They're like he knows basketball, but he's a dickhead. Like George Karl, bro, he's awful. But I think DeMarcus Cousins could have been fine in the right spot, but then and then there was the experiment with him and Anthony Davis in New Orleans, which I know like here's the deal. The whole like everything's going small ball. Why did you get 2 big centers? Is different when your centers are like DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. You know what I mean?
Yes, when they can pop out and shoot threes consistently.
Right. And Anthony Davis isn't just big. He like I'm trying to think of an example. Like Dwight Howard, as big as he is, has never been able to bully someone in the post. Like it's just not his game. You know what I mean? But like if you tried to put Draymond Green on DeMarcus Cousins, he was gonna score 8 times out of 10. You know what I mean? Like,
right. We talked about it last week.
Is not big enough to guard him. Yeah, exactly.
That picture where he's like a tree trunk.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns is like looks like he's trying to fucking push a building over. Like,
yes, exactly. Yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins thinking about what he's gonna eat after the game.
Yeah. So like, see, like for me, like that deal, I don't want to say it made sense because it is, but it's like
that could have worked if it didn't get hurt.
Right. Like the talent. I think for both of them, when they were at that time, the talent is so good. Like you kind of just put them out there at the same time and just hope that it works.
Right,
like,
and it could have, and like we never really got to see if it would work or not because like it didn't work super great at the beginning, but none of those team ups ever do early. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, there's always growing pains.
Right, and then he got fucking hurt, and the whole thing was over, and we never really got to see what would happen. And since then, DeMarcus Cousins hasn't really been himself. He's been a shell of himself.
Yeah, because I think, wasn't it the first one was in Achilles, right? I can't remember if it was Achilles first or ACL first.
Right, but I think
it was ACL first.
Devastating injuries each time.
Yeah, but each time, the kind of stuff that, they kill horses over.
Yeah,
right?
the kind of stuff that, like, people invest in deer antler spray. Yeah, this is going to be the deer antler spray podcast. We're gonna get a sponsorship for deer antler spray.
Did you see that tweet of the turkey? It was like sliding, and it was like it looked like Ray Lewis.
No, what?
There was like somebody took a picture of turkey in an oven, and it was like it's like standing up, and its leg is out, and it's like this looks like Ray Lewis.
God.
Here. Go through and give your thoughts on one, and I'll find the tweet on another signing.
On another signing, I mean, again, the Knicks are looking bad. And we signed a couple people. At least we didn't pay like ignorant amounts of money. We didn't pull a Michael Jordan in Charlotte. Let me look through this list again because now that I've fucking Google's telling me explicitly no. DeMarcus Cousins did not win a ring.
Chris Paul to the Suns. Although I think we touched on
yeah.
that one. That was like one of the first ones that happened.
That's not bad.
You saw the picture. You saw the tweet.
Yes, bro. Like when he's doing his stupid fucking. What do they call that dance?
I really don't. I don't think he ever gave it a name. He's the Ray
squirrel,
Lewis dance.
Either way, yeah. Yeah, no, it is sliding just like Ray Lewis. That's also getting posted on the day that drops.
I was playing a video game. I think I was playing Batman or something, and I beat like a hard level. And Sydney was in the room, and I did the Ray Lewis dance, like the slide, and then
the
like
knee up and
like
both arms
twerks
back.
his hands, like the handshake thing. She was like, "What the fuck was that?" I was like, "It's the Ray Lewis dance." She's like, "The Ray what? What was that? What is that? Why did you do that?"
The only other like so I got this one from a friend. Shout out to Sean. But like. He used to do it all the time because he was a Chargers fan. But like now, like sometimes when I beat something that's ridiculously like hard, I do the fucking Sean Merriman lights out, like where he like cocks his hand and throws the punch.
I remember we used to say that's the steroids hitting.
Yeah. Yo, fucking if I get over something that's too difficult, bro, get one of those. God, the Sean Merriman. I think it was just called Lights Out.
Yeah, lights out. Yeah.
God. Yo, is he? I feel like he did MMA for a short period of time.
Yeah, right? So like he was like defensive rookie of the year. He was like pretty good in his first year, and then he got busted for steroids, and then he kind of was never the same. Which I think happened. The same thing happened to what was the guy's name? Brian Cushing. Remember him from the Texans? He was defensive rookie, and I know he was defensive rookie of the year, and he got busted for steroids, and then he was never the same after that. So
yeah, I wonder why.
Wonder why. But anyway, so all of these signings is to say, like, I think you kind of really don't know until they hit the court. I think some guys are guaranteed to do great, like Anthony Davis, the big top stars guys, regardless. And some guys I think, grow under the system they're in or who they play with. Like I think I saw some stat that like 3 or 4 guys that played with the Mavs this year with Doncic, they hit like their career highs in threes because of the space he creates. So I think the big guys signings are important because I think those are franchise changing. Mm-hmm. The small guys, I think most of that is just luck. Most of that is how they fit into the system, and it's hard to make a prediction off of those small guys until they play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Danny Green is probably just going to keep throwing up bricks wherever he's at now.
Right.
Yo, he fell off so hard.
I think he's still good. I think toward the end there was something up. I think now he's with Daryl Morey and his system at the 76ers. I think it's going to be a lot of what's his name, Embiid kicking out. I guess you know what? I'm going to make a prediction. I think he's going to hit not his most threes, but he's going to have his best percentage of threes. And I think Embiid's going to have his career high in assists, which I don't think is that high, but I'm going to go ahead and give those 2 predictions, and we'll check back in however many months.
Ben Simmons is still in Philly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Embiid's going to kick it out when Ben Simmons is already in the paint.
They're both clogging the paint in there.
Embiid might be the one catching Ben Simmons' dish outs for 3. Because Embiid, for some reason, continues to take threes like he's a good shooter, and he's not. But my guess is they're going to fucking double down on it with the Daryl Morey system.
Mm.
But anyways, we'll leave the NBA behind for now. And our last topic we'll touch on briefly is that Wonder Woman moved to HBO Max, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So Wonder Woman 1984, which was originally scheduled for this past June, got pushed to it's going to be on HBO Max and theaters December 25th, so on Christmas. Okay. But it's only going to be on HBO Max for a month. Okay. So I don't quite know why. And I feel like
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know why. So a couple of things here. So the first one is that they had originally scheduled this movie for last December, but they had pushed it because they didn't want it to go up against Star Wars Episode 9. Even though there are plenty of examples of movies going up against big movies in the month of December and still doing well because of Christmas, because of the New Year's. Off the top of my head, I can think about like Jumanji. Mm-hmm. The first Rock one, it came out the same year the same weekend or maybe a weekend after of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And if you look up the box office, Jumanji is like the 20th highest grossing movie of all time. And when Avatar came out, Sherlock Holmes, the one with Robert Downey Jr. came out, and then an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie came out, and both of them were huge.
Okay.
So I don't. So yeah. So there's, but I guess they just thought we'll put it out in June. It'll make more money. Of course, that didn't happen. So they pushed
I bet they're killing themselves.
Oh
over
my
that one.
gosh, dude! It's like, imagine if you swapped out a quarterback for a shitty quarterback in fantasy, and he cost you the game. Except imagine you losing $1 billion over that. That's what that feels like. So
yeah, it'd be like, here's what it is. Like you on Sunday morning, you see that your starting quarterback of Patrick Mahomes is going against the #1 defense in the nation, and you're like, I can't start him. I have to start so and so, right? I have to start what's a super average quarterback
like
now?
Sam Darnold against the easiest shitty one.
Sam Darnold against like nothing, right? Like against like the 26th defense in the league, right? But you forget to check, and no, you know what? Game starts, very first play, Sam Darnold breaks both of his legs and his neck, and you're like, what's supposed to happen? It's like, bro, you're locked in. Sorry, buddy. Like, and then Patrick Mahomes still pops off.
Regardless, you're like,
yeah, and then again, it cost you $1 billion fucking.
It costs you $1 billion that you have to pay off for the rest of your life. And so they moved it to June, and then they've been sort of kicking it down the road ever since. So they were like, it's going to come out in August. Now it's going to come out in November. Now it's going to come out on Christmas Day. And it's still going to come out on Christmas Day because, as unlikely as this sounds, there are some theaters still playing and people still go. I mean, not as much as before, of course. Like, I think it's just like a tiny, tiny fraction of it, but people still go. And they also moved it to HBO Max. But only for a month. And so what I'm thinking is that they probably don't have as many subscribers as they had hoped. Or maybe they got a bunch when it first started, and then they just haven't been getting many month to month.
Right.
And so this is basically, I guess, just so that people will see it a month and they'll want to sign up. And then eventually, hopefully by February, they think people will be better. But then this just got announced like a week or two ago, and that's around the same time that they said that there's going to be the vaccines have been promising, and they're hoping to get them out by the end of this year, start of next year. So my thinking is, well, just hold on to the movie and wait, and just keep putting out like shitty like whatever comedies or horror Jason Blum horror movies you were going to come out, put those on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just hold on to it at this point. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to make the decision to put it out for a month to try and help your theater numbers, and cut it off in a month, like, why don't you just wait?
Right. Just wait. And then
here's the deal. If you decided, like, no matter what, this just has to come out now, and then you put it on HBO Max, that makes sense. But if you're going to do this, like, 1 month thing to then still try and, salvage some sort of theater revenue, like, just wait then.
Yeah, just wait then. And it's also like it's sort of what I've been seeing, what I saw, for Black Friday stuff, where people are like, Black Friday is COVID's, latest, I don't want to say casualty, but latest thing that has collapsed under COVID. I'm like, okay, yes, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to come back next year. Like,
right.
People say the same thing about theaters. They're like, the theater experience is dead because of COVID, or like, I keep saying like fucking dead ones. I don't mean to say that. I mean, like, it's dwindling because of COVID, and it's like, or it's dwindling. COVID is just another sort of
nail in the coffin.
I can't think of. No. I don't want to say that either. I'm like, I can't think of it. But it's like, yes, because of the virus. It's like people are saying the shutdowns are killing restaurants. I'm like, no, the virus is killing the restaurants, right?
Right.
Like, we can blame stuff on the virus. People aren't going Black Friday shopping as much because of the virus. But then next year they might still. People aren't going to the movie theater because they're not open. They're not going to the movie theater because there's a virus, right? Like, it's okay to blame stuff on the virus.
I think the reason why people don't do that is because there are enough assholes out there that, like, restaurants are open and people are going and eating inside. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And so if you did open up theaters, like, I'm sure they'd do well. I mean, a lot of people would die, but I'm sure the theaters would do well.
Yeah.
So.
And I actually, my girlfriend and I, she lives right next to a mall which has a movie theater. And a couple of weeks ago, we actually went to the theater, but we picked up concessions because I know that's where they mostly get their stuff.
Yeah.
And we just took the concessions back home and watched a movie there.
Yeah.
Which was awesome because I miss movie popcorn.
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's a cool option to have because she lives
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. I don't think I would go. Like,
You
I
ain't
wouldn't
driving
probably
like
do
20 minutes out and then driving 20
minutes
minutes
just
back with popcorn that's no longer warm.
exactly. Yeah. And that's what I was like, all right, move.
It's fucking cool.
All right.
Like the butter has just cooled. Like
I told her, I was like, all right, we're gonna go to Target first, but then we're gonna go to the movies and we gotta just like go home, okay? Because we cannot
you're like,
get this popcorn.
I'm gonna sit in the back seat. We're gonna put the popcorn in the front passenger seat. And we're gonna turn the heat warmers on. The seat warmers on. Keep that shit hot and toasty. You're gonna put every air vent in this shit. You're gonna pump the heat all the way up and point all the air vents at this fucking popcorn.
Exactly. And Wonder Woman going to the streaming. It's actually we mentioned a couple weeks ago that Disney and Pixar had moved Soul, their movie that was going to come out in June as well, to Disney Plus. Right. And that one, I don't think they're releasing in theaters at all. That one's straight up just like it's going to be on the service. Like that's just what it is. You don't have to pay extra, but it's just like on there.
Right.
And then I think this week I saw there were rumors about Warner Brothers trying to shop the King Kong versus Godzilla movie.
Oh, okay.
And Netflix had offered $200 million, but I think Warner Brothers wanted it to be on HBO Max. And that's one where I'm like, so like I watched the King Kong movie that came out a couple years ago and the Godzilla ones. But dude, like those, I'm just gonna be like, just save those, those, because those are gonna look so cool in movie theaters. I need you to save them, okay? Yeah. I don't care about In the Heights or Conjuring 5 or It 3 or whatever you got down the pipeline. That's like gonna be a big hit. Put those on HBO Max, but save King Kong versus Godzilla. Save the big movies for the theaters.
Right. Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. But then from their standpoint, like, the revenue's not gonna be nearly as high on King Kong versus Godzilla,
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But that's the one that the experience of, you know what I mean, you'd rather have in a theater.
It's like for me, I'm just like, just save it for me, Evercastro, I'll go see it.
Mail me an individual reel of that movie. I'll set up the projector in a movie theater by myself and just let me play that shit solo.
So sort of a little bit of story time. That's what I used to do when I worked when I was in school. I worked at the student union, and so my job was the tech job. So every weekend I would put on these free movies that the local activities board would rent out, which was the best job I ever had. I loved it. Like if there was a job that was ever up my alley, it was projecting movies every Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And so what that meant is that I had keys to the building.
Oh shit.
And so what I would do is that I would like whenever there was a big movie trailer, like for Star Wars, like when the movie trailer for the Star Wars Episode 5 came out, it came out when I was in class, and I was like, okay. The class ended. I sprinted to the union. I unlocked the doors, locked them behind me, turned on all the system, the stereos, the TVs, things, set up, watched the trailer by myself in the middle of the movie theater with the sound all the way up. And I was like, that was the greatest 5 minutes of my life. That was amazing. Like my own little movie theater. And of course,
Did you watch one trailer where it fucking spoiled it and you were like, yeah, this is the worst?
I mean, this is back when I used to watch trailers. I don't watch them anymore. But I was literally like, if the janitorial stuff comes in, I'm just telling them I'm testing the sound out. That's all I'm doing.
How many times did you have to use that?
Oh, luckily they never came in.
Right.
But
you were mad paranoid anyways.
Yeah, all the time. Like, oh, God, they're coming in. And they used to see me all the time. So by the end, I felt okay because I could just sort of like lie a little bit. But that was the best job ever because we would get the movies and DVDs. And so every week, to make sure that they worked, I had to test them out. And so what that meant was that I could watch them by myself in this empty movie theater and get paid for it. So I would clock in at noon. I would like dilly-dally for a half hour. I would put the movie in. I would watch it for an hour and a half, and then I would dilly-dally half hour after, and I would get paid for 2.5 hours, and I would get to watch this movie by myself in the movie theater, test it out.
Get paid for it.
Get paid for it. I think what movie was it that I used to do it with all these movies, dude. Dallas Buyers Club. I remember I just watched Dallas Buyers Club by myself in a movie theater that I was getting paid to watch for. And I was like, that was a great movie. And I was able to pause it and unpause it whenever I wanted.
You were like, the fucking next movie was like 3 hours long. You're like, yes, this is a fucking banger of a paycheck for this one.
And so then I didn't mention this, but I was on the activities board that picked the movies. So basically, I got to pick the movies that then I would pay myself on the other side to show. If that makes any sense. So
damn.
So I worked at the
You're
student
like, I need a
union.
little more money this week. I'm gonna pick the Titanic.
So like I would be like, they'd be like, you know, in my committee, people would want to pick certain movies, and then I would sort of, I mean, they usually, we lined up in our interests because it was the same sort of, we were very similar in what we wanted to watch.
Right.
But it would always be because they were also big movie fans and movie buffs like me and movie nerds. We would all pick the movies that were like Oscar movies and stuff, and like movies that I wanted to watch. So I'd be like, we'd be in the committee. I'd be like, yeah, let's go ahead and watch. Let's do Whiplash next weekend or whatever weekend. Right. And then I would go on the other side, which is the employee side of the union. And then I would get to watch Whiplash and get paid for it.
God, that's great. Oh boy, you work in the system. I fucked with it.
Yeah. It's every time I tell people, or I tell Sydney that story, it reminds me of the American Dad bit where he's drunk and he's talking to Francine, his wife, and he was like, I was flush with cash. I was closer to God than I've ever been. And she goes, Stan, I don't want to hear about the 6th grade again. Yeah, that was the best job I ever had. God, that was the best. Because I mean, I wasn't doing anything bad. I just managed to get into both roles and then just do what I needed to do to be in both roles. But it was just like, God, I got to pick
everything
movies
worked out perfectly. Yeah. My best job was, I don't have one. All my jobs have been terrible. I once was fixing someone's cable when I worked for Time Warner, and I walked to their house. I asked where the remote was. They were like, "Oh, it's right over there," and it was sitting right next to a crack pipe on the table, bro. I was like, "Yes." I was like,
you just gotta.
Yeah, I walked. I did cable in one guy's house. Had to do an install. Walked in, bro. He was in the middle of doing a drug deal on the phone, bro. I was like, just gonna keep my shit cool. Just
yeah. He was like, "Did you hear any of that?" Like, nope, didn't hear anything. Nope. You don't have to kill me.
Yo, and the thing was, it's like I was training, so there was a guy with me, right? And I was like, after we got done with that, I walked out and I was like, I feel like dude should have been more careful. And he was like, why? We're cool. We're not snitches. I was like, but he doesn't know that. Like, we could have been anybody, bro. He could have been making this drug deal on the phone, and we could have walked out and I could have immediately been like, police, help! Police, help!
And then your trainer was probably like, brought out a switchblade. Are you a snitch, Tyler? Should I be careful with you?
But it's just like, I couldn't get it through the guy that was training me in his head. Like, he was like, nah, but obviously we're not going to snitch. And I was like, I understand that. Obviously. But he doesn't know that. Like, we were just two random dudes that walked into his apartment and he was like, gotta get the drug deal off.
What if he was just like trying to show off? You know, he's not even doing a drug deal. He's just trying to show off to the guys installing his cable, and he's like, God, these guys gotta think I'm cool, man. I mean, I think I've told you the story about our mutual friend Sean walking home from school.
Maybe. What was
it? If I've told you, I think I have, but just if it does, just let me know. But when our friend Sean and we were in middle school, I think. His grandma used to live close to where I used to live, so we would walk home from middle school together, or early high school. And so what would happen is we would be walking home, and then there'd be these like elementary school kids or maybe young middle school kids that would always be in front of us, and because we were older, we would always just go around them because we would walk faster.
Right.
Down the street. And so what would happen is that Sean and I would be walking, we'd be talking nerdy shit. We'd be like, wow, did you watch the Lakers play? Man, like we played Halo, blah, 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 blah. And then when we got to close enough to within hearing distance of the kids, I'd be like, Sean, man, that girl was all over me, man. She was like, Becky, get away. Trina is my girlfriend, not you, Becky. And then I would kiss Becky while Trina watched, like that kind of stuff. And then when we got out of the kids, like eyesight or, hearing distance, we'd be like, okay. Anyway, back to Halo.
It's amazing. Oh, God. I once saw Sean almost punch a middle schooler as he ran past. That's unrelated. Me and Sean were walking just to where we parked down near the post office. Just like this one middle schooler, like, came running up behind us, but he was, like, alone. So we were just walking, and all of a sudden Sean heard, like someone like running up on him, and he immediately turned and like had one fist up like he was ready to punch someone. And then the kid didn't notice, and the kid just ran by us. I turned to look at him, I was like, were you about to punch that middle schooler? He's like, look, man, thought somebody was running up on me. I was ready to go.
It's like, damn, Sean, I didn't know you were like that. It's like the have you seen? There's like a video where like a guy, so he's like, it's like everybody's in a house and the lights are off, and then he walks in the front door and they flick the light and they go surprise, and the guy pulls out a gun. Have you seen that?
And he's like, and then just like tucks
He pulls it back in his pocket, and a dude goes, whoa, wait.
God, I love that. Yeah, it's exactly what that was. Yeah, he's like startled. The light comes on. He immediately like the gun is
he
out.
He really pulls out the gun and like points it around. And everybody's like, surprise!
Yeah, I don't think he like quite points it around yet, but he's like has it like ready to go, and then he's like, ha, he like kind of like laughs it off and just tucks the gun back in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Whew. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Oh God. But yeah, no. But we'll call that the episode.
Yeah.
So if you want to catch me on Twitter, Instagram, you can catch me at TMoneyBags.
And I'm at EverCastro92.
And if you want to catch the podcast directly, you can catch us at Diff Animals Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or you can email us directly at differentanimalspodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. And then I do want to add, next week is a topic that I always do on Facebook that I always get excited about, which is my favorite songs of the year.
Okay.
So be looking forward to that on next week's episode.
Definitely. So we'll definitely catch that on next week's episode. So be ready and stay tuned. So stay safe, stay entertained, and we'll catch y'all next week.
See you guys.
Peace. What up?